Social media, AI, fake news and WhatsApp forwards have come to define our time. शॉर्ट में कहें तो मिस इन्फॉर्मेशन के इस दौर में लॉजिक और साइंटिफिक टेम्पर की धज्जियां उड़ा दी गई हैं. So we are starting this show to help you cut through this mess. Hello and welcome to The Wire. I am Elisha Vermani and you're watching Scientifically Yours, The Wire's latest show on science and reason. हम ला रहे हैं डॉक्टर्स, साइंटिस्ट, प्रोफेसर्स और एक्सपर्ट्स जो आपसे थोड़ी अकल की बात कर सकें. आज का एपिसोड है AI के बारे में. But before we hear from the experts, let's take a look at some news. RBI ने इस महीने एक नया AI टूल लॉन्च किया है जिसका नाम है mulehunter.ai. The tool is supposed to help them catch mule accounts, यानी कि वो अकाउंट्स जो मनी लॉन्ड्रिंग और अवैध पैसे को इधर से उधर करने में काम आते हैं. यूके से खबर है कि AI के इस्तेमाल से बनाए गए लोगों के वॉइस क्लोन्स यानी डुप्लीकेट रिकॉर्डिंग्स बैंक्स के सिक्योरिटी सिस्टम्स को चकमा देने में कामयाब हुई हैं. कुछ ब्रिटिश बैंक्स में कस्टमर्स की आवाज को उनके पासवर्ड की तरह यूज किया जाता है. ये फैसिलिटी इंडिया में अभी नहीं आई है तो आपको घबराने की जरूरत नहीं है. क्या आपने एलन ट्यूरिंग का नाम सुना है? उन्होंने वर्ल्ड वॉर 2 में जर्मनी के कोडेड मैसेजेस को क्रैक करने पर इंपॉर्टेंट काम किया था. उनकी एक पेंटिंग हाल ही में $1 मिलियन में बिकी है, पर वो पेंटिंग किसी इंसान ने नहीं, एक AI रोबोट ने बनाई थी. यूएस की एक ऑथर हैं, उनका एक कोट बहुत फेमस हो गया है. I want AI to do my laundry and dishes so that I can do art and writing. Not for AI to do my art and writing so that I can do my laundry and dishes. इस बारे में थोड़ा सोचिए और अपने ख्याल हमें कमेंट्स में जरूर बताइए. Do we really need AI to make art? आइए अब कुछ एक्सपर्ट्स से इन्हीं इश्यूज पर बात करते हैं. In this segment with me are Dr. Harshvardhan Hegde, Professor Gauhar Raza, and our special guest for today, Professor Ramesh Jain. Mr. Raza is a filmmaker, author, social activist, Urdu poet, और अगर कोई और करियर या फील्ड इनसे छूट गया हो तो आप इन्हें बता सकते हैं. Dr. Hegde is an orthopedic surgeon and a spine specialist with more than 25 years of experience. And Mr. Jain is a scientist who works on the intersection of AI and health. In fact, he's been working on AI before ChatGPT and Gemini were a thing. Very excited to have you all here with me today.
Thank you for inviting us.
Thank you. Professor Jain, could you tell us what was your history? What did you start with as a young student, and then why were you taken into artificial intelligence finally and becoming one of the foremost experts in this area in the world?
I grew up in a village near Nagpur, and I grew up on a ashram. My father was a priest there, so I did not go to school in the early childhood. I directly went to Nagpur in 5th grade.
Who inspired you to do engineering?
In fact, it's kind of funny that I was a lot more interested in cricket, like most of the kids nowadays, than anything else. But my father, like all the good fathers, wanted me to study well. And study well meant study science-related things, and then go and do engineering or medicine. So I was pushed towards those directions. I did not even know the existence of IITs at that time. The computers were nowhere. We did not know what computers are. After that, I was lucky enough to get selected by IIT Kharagpur to join directly PhD. One thing that is slightly unusual is that at that time, I was extremely patriotic and wanted to never leave India. And
It must have been a major cultural shift for you from Nagpur to IIT Kharagpur. For me, it was from Aligarh to IIT Delhi. It was a major cultural shift.
I am very intrigued by your question because it was, for me, it was cultural shift going from an ashram where I did not go to a school, then to join a school there. And because I was about 2 years younger than every other kid, so it was very interesting experience.
How was your stay in IIT?
IIT was a very interesting experience because that's where I started becoming very interested in what we all call cyberspace. That time the term was not there. We used to call them cybernetics. And in fact, cybernetics was very advanced control systems. So I did my PhD in control systems. In fact, that was the reason that when I was doing advanced controls, I realized that advanced control are very closely related to what now we call AI.
But why did you decide, when you were very keen to remain in India and change its education system, you went to Germany?
So
What
life,
was
so
what was
sometimes,
happening?
sometimes life is very interesting. Uh, uh,
जिंदगी
I
कहाँ
did
कहाँ
not,
ले जाती
yeah,
है पता नहीं.
right. I did not want to go to Germany. I was pushed by IIT Kharagpur administration because I had joined faculty there. And because I joined faculty there, and that time they all wanted that every faculty member should have some foreign experience. So they wanted me to go and spend some time there. And that's how I was.
And then you were bitten.
And, yes. In fact, it was little more complicated than that because uh, when I was in Germany, I was doing research in a particular area. And in fact, that's when, because everybody is interested in
Was it
AI.
control system?
It
Still
was
control.
I had moved from cybernetics to AI, and I was doing research, or I joined a group in Germany in computer vision related things. And in fact, everybody talks about AI, so I wrote my first major research paper that came in AI in 1977. Okay.
1977 में AI की बात करना is so.
So, and it was
Were you born then?
No, I was not.
She wasn't born.
and that was the most prestigious journal where I presented that paper.
But that was probably one of the most exciting periods after Second World War in Europe and in the history of technology as well as science, but more so in the history of technology.
In fact, add to that the fact that I was in Germany. And uh, Germany was going through a very interesting cultural shift that time. And that cultural shift really has to be felt rather than somebody describing. They were feeling very guilty. But at the same time, they were very ambitious. They wanted to make things happen, but they wanted to do it in a way that nothing like what had caused Hitler's rise to happen, something there.
As you were going through these turning points in your professional and personal life, the world was also going through, and especially the world of computers was going through major shifts. Our generation is lucky as compared to your generation, when we have seen the punching card machines and all those things, and we had to learn the language Pascal and Fortran and many other languages just to work on computer. And then came the era of microchips, and then comes the era of computers. And now I remember that in IIT Delhi, when DEC 10 came from America, it was a huge building that was constructed for the computer only. And now, as compared to that DEC 10, this device is much more powerful.
You rephrased my memory about IIT Kharagpur, where we had IBM 1620 computer, for which there was a special building, and you had to remove shoes and all these things to enter the building. It was
And Nehru
considered.
calls it temples of science.
That's, in fact, I was exactly going to use the term that it was considered more clean than any temple can be. It was very difficult to enter in the room, and you got very little time. Every month we got 3 hours of compute time. So for doing my PhD work, I had to get a special permission to go to IIT Kanpur because they had more powerful computers. So I spent some time there. So those were very interesting days. Yes.
One other thing that excites me after reading about your work and some of the articles is that your interest in healthcare, the application of AI in the area of healthcare, and you're one of the world's leading experts in this area. So please tell us, what do you mean by that? I mean, how does artificial intelligence help? What is the beginning and where have we reached now? And what is its role in a country like India where there are large groups of people who don't have adequate health care?
Healthcare is something that I entered very late. I did not take a single course in biology. So I had no idea what biology is all about. Some of the things that made my journey more interesting where I was very lucky to have some amazing students. For example, one thing that everybody uses, Photoshop, came out of my lab. It was done by my student, Tom Knoll. Similarly, nowadays you take all these pictures and all the videos. So all these things happened through my own research. If you go image databases and how do you manage images, how do you search videos and all these things, they were happening all through. And I even built several companies, got involved in doing some companies that were related to those things. And all of a sudden I found that I was diagnosed with gastroesophageal cancer. And that time I was at Georgia Tech, but my family was still in California. So I was advised that for cancer treatment it's better to be at a place where your family or your social infrastructure is strong. So I decided to go through treatment in San Diego. When I started going through my treatment, the doctors who were going to treat me became really very close personal friends. A person who was going to be my oncologist, his name was Bill Walker. Then the other person who became equally good friend or possibly better friend was Matt Brunson. He was a surgeon, and they used to come and chat with me all the time. So thing that took me to medicine is
Personal serious ailment.
no. I'm coming to that because it's slightly more deeper story. So one day they came, Bill Walker came and said, Ramesh, we are going to start chemo on you. And it's going to be cisplatin and Fuchs 5. So I casually asked him, I said, and why are you going to give me this particular protocol? He says, because it works. So I casually asked him, how do you know it works? He said it's the worldwide protocol for gastroesophageal cancer. So I asked him, but how do you know it works? Before he could answer that question, Matt Brunson interfered and he said, Bill, don't answer that question. We know Ramesh's history. So let me answer this question tomorrow. So next day he brought a pile of research papers and he gave it to me. And he said, this is the answer to your question and we will discuss tomorrow. So he joked with me that this is homework for you. So I read those things. Next day they came and so he said, so what do you think? I I'm sorry, you are a doctor, but I said, listen, Matt, I used to think that, boy, you are even a surgeon. Okay, yeah, he was a surgeon. Right. So I said, I'm sorry, I used to think that you guys do black magic, but I changed my opinion. I think you are astrologers. Okay, so Matt immediately said, and I know your opinion about astrologers. So why do you think that we are astrologers? I said, it's very simple. Astrologers had good intent. They wanted to predict the future, and they wanted you to manage the future according to that. But unfortunately, it became a bogus science because we didn't have the data, and we didn't have the way to store the data and analyze the data. So he said, that is true, and we didn't have the data. So what else could we do? I said, but Matt, that's not the real answer. The real answer is, you and I have been discussing in this room that our body is a combination of genetics and our lifestyle. And you, all the examples that you gave are based on the research done in Dublin, Ireland. They did 94 patients, and they experimented on those people, and they collected the data. Now 94, if you are trying 3 protocols, nothing can be very solid.
Yes,
So that's the one thing. But the real issue is that you are going to treat an Indian who was born in India, was a Jain, he never ate meat, he never drank alcohol, and you are comparing him to Irish people whose genomes was different, and my genome is different, and you are going to give me the same treatment that you are giving there. How can you justify that? So he said, I completely agree with you, but what can we do?
This is what is available.
This is available, exactly
Like
right.
There was
in
no
a
Jain data.
Right, exactly.
But this is exactly what happens in villages. Doctor is not available. It is only Ojha who is available. So
That's
people go to him. What do you do?
That's what. So
That is where science is important.
I
That
think
you have to collect data and collect sufficient clean data,
Mhm.
and then draw conclusions based on that, and therefore that becomes the
and
scientific
the
knowledge.
importance of data cannot be overemphasized. And that's when we started discussing that if we want to change health, this thing, we have to start collecting the data. So I accepted its challenge, and I said, Matt, if I walk alive out of this hospital, I will change my research. I will not be doing what I used to do. I will apply everything that I know to health.
That reminds me of a very interesting conversation with a Chinese minister who had come for a conference, and uh, we were discussing about surveys. And I said that Chinese society is supposed to be a closed society if the results of your survey are not politically aligned to what you are dealing with, then what happens? He said, we are not doing this survey for the world. We are doing this survey to inform our policymakers so that we know the real condition in the society.
Correct.
And for that, data generation is extremely important. And therefore, when any government takes a decision that data should not be generated, data should not be revealed, it is going against scientific temper.
So
Steering back the conversation to AI, you worked on cybernetics. Could you briefly tell us what AI research looked like then, and also then tell us about what your health and AI, the intersection of these two things, looks like now?
huge difference, very huge difference. AI research at that time, if you go back to cybernetics days, cybernetics started with control theory. And once that started and the field of AI was founded, all this happened in 1950s. Uh, uh, the term AI was coined. There were five people who were in a meeting, and they started as trying to think about this particular field. The early thinking was that it's going to be all logic. Because we associated that logic leads to reasoning, which is considered intelligence. Because when we start talking about intelligence, what is intelligence? It's all problem solving, reasoning, planning, understanding the context, and taking new problems and applying those things. So the starting was all reasoning based things. But then people also started realizing that if you want to solve a complex problem, then there are many possible ways of doing this. So how do you represent those things, and how do you start applying search type mechanism so that you can find what is the correct solution? So these things were becoming popular. I would like to share one of the very famous story that became very popular later on. Was that one student reached out to Marvin Minsky, who was head of AI at MIT that time, and said, I have 3 months of time in summer to do a project, and what should I do in AI? So Marvin Minsky thought for some time, and he said, if you have only 3 months, the best thing to do is to develop a computer vision system that will look at objects and start trying to think of recognizing it. Because you cannot do chess playing program, or you cannot do any complex thing. So do a simple thing. Later on, people found out that computer vision is a lot more complex and difficult than any logic. Okay. So later on, when Marvin Minsky was asked that, what do you think about this? He said, we will solve chess playing problem in just few more years. I don't know whether we will ever solve computer vision problem. Okay. So that was the state of art.
And your work now with at the intersection of AI and health, what is that about?
I think it will be very difficult to make that complete jump. So let me tell you a little bit stepwise. So when computer vision started progressing, and because we want to talk about health, the first areas where AI was applied to to health. I would say there were two areas where AI entered in health. One was computer vision, where people started trying to help doctors analyze X-ray images, or when they were analyzing any body part, to find exact boundaries of those things, or count number of cells. So for diagnosis purposes, they started working towards that kind of problem. The second area was, I don't know whether most people know this, but AI from 1950s till until recently has been always going through what we call seasons, winters and summers. But after working for a few years, they found that there was a lot of hype. There is nothing going to be solved. Okay? So we entered the
bubble was
winter.
about to burst.
But it burst, not about to, it burst.
It did.
And that's what is called winters and summers of AI.
So right now is the summer of AI.
This continued for 2-3 cycles. And the second cycle, which came in 80s, was knowledge based system, where people realize that knowledge is very important, and if we can capture all the knowledge in the form of rules, then we can start developing systems that will be lot more intelligent. And this particular thing is very important, capturing knowledge, getting knowledge and representing it in simpler form. That's what they started doing.
Collating it, analyzing it,
Representing it,
representing
in
it, and then finally using it,
That's exact-
making it useful
That's exactly right.
or usable.
Usable.
Unless that knowledge is made finally useful for a doctor like him, all the knowledge may remain in the computer.
Exactly right. That-
So probably the last step was also extremely important.
in fact, I would say that every step was equally important, but last step we interact with that.
One of the doctors I was discussing with said that he's a pediatrician, and maybe you'll be better person to answer this. He said that a doctor in his lifetime may see 20 patients or 200 patients or 2000 patients and may study 200 books or 1000 books and research papers, and that is the basis for his analysis of any disease or the procedure that he is going to apply. But AI enables him or her to look with a just punch of button thousands and thousands of experiences that have been gathered all over the world and suddenly come to a conclusion, and that enables you and gives you a tool which is just wonderful. So is it true?
Yes, of course. And that's why there is a worry that AI might replace the doctor. I mean, the diagnostic.
But can AI really replace doctors? Is that a realistic question to worry about?
Yeah, very much. Because they are self-learning, so it corrects its errors, and I'm sure in due course of time it will prove to be. Yes, yes. Correct me if I'm wrong. There are places where diagnose radiological, let's say MRI, CT scan diagnosis, are now AI generated completely.
In fact,
It's found to be better than the.
yeah, they are.
आपकी जो डायग्नोसिस होने जा रही है वो बेस्ड ऑन एआई होने जा रही है. ये भी फेज एक ऐसा है जो खत्म हो जाएगा. You're saying that?
हाँ, वो AI खुद ही करेगा ना.
वो एआई खुद ही कर लेगा और फिर एआई ही मशीन को ले आएगा और आपका पेशेंट लेटा हुआ होगा उसका ऑपरेशन भी कर देगा वो
पता नहीं वो सर बताएगा वो है
क्या ऐसा होने जा रहा है.
देखिए बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग बात इसमें ये है कि जब से AI टर्म्स आई और उसके बारे में जो मैंने विंटर और समर की बात की थी, एक कहानी हमेशा चलते आई है और ये चलती रहेगी. आप एक कल्पना कीजिए कि ह्यूमन बीइंग्स हमेशा इंटेलिजेंस को लेकर के बहुत चीज़ें इंटरेस्टिंग इमेजिन करते आए हैं, क्योंकि यदि आप देखें कि पूरी एनिमल किंगडम में या लाइफ फॉर्म्स में the only important thing that has made humans so dominant that we are sitting here and discussing like this is intelligence.
Abstract thinking.
Right. Everything required to solve these problems. Okay? Otherwise, many animals are a lot more powerful than us.
Yes.
And because of this power, we have seen some very interesting things. You go back to mythology in every part of the world, and you will see that people have always imagined that human being combined with other animals or human being combined with other things, powerful things, have been very powerful, and in that case they have been sometimes very good and sometimes evil. यदि आप ग्रीस में चले जाएं या इंडिया में आए तो ये सब जानवर माइथोलॉजी में एग्जिस्ट करते थे और वो आज भी एग्जिस्ट करते हैं. दूसरी तरफ स्टार वार्स टाइप मूवीज़ में इसी कल्पना को लेकर के उन्होंने जो नए जानवर नए चीज़ें बन रही थी वो फ्यूचर में दिखाई थी. तो आप ये सोचिए कि मैं वहाँ बैठा हुआ और देख रहा हूँ और मुझे देख कर के इतनी हैरानी हुई कि हम लोग इन सब की कल्पना पुराने ज़माने में को लेकर के करते हैं, ये लोग इसकी कल्पना आगे ले जाके करते हैं. आप स्टार ट्रैक सीरीज़ देख लीजिए या ET मूवीज़ देख लीजिए और सब देख लीजिए, उनमें सब में ऐसा ही होता आया है. तो हमेशा से जब भी इंटेलिजेंस की बात आई है, लोगों ने इमेजिन करना शुरू कर दिया कि ये इतना पावरफुल हो जाएगा कि या तो हमारी सब समस्याएं सॉल्व कर देंगे, या इतना
सब कुछ
खराब
खत्म।
बन जाएगा कि हमको मार डालेगा।
नहीं, ये बताओ सर,
खत्म हो जाएगी।
हमारे से होशियार हो जाएगी मशीन या नहीं होगी?
हो जाएगी।
हो जाएगी।
आप कल्पना कर रहे हैं? अरे साहब, हो गई है।
ये जो डर हमारे कन्वर्सेशन में आ ही गया है और हम डिस्कस कर रहे हैं, ये बहुत वाइड है। ये डर के रिप्लेस कर देगा इंसान को एआई। और इफ़ आई रिमेम्बर करेक्टली, स्टीवन हॉकिंस अपनी किताब में लिखते हैं कि कई चीज़ें हैं, लिस्ट है उनकी एक 6-7 चीज़ों की, जिसकी वजह से पूरी मानवता, ज़िंदगी धरती के ऊपर ख़त्म हो सकती है। जिसमें पहला तो उन्होंने लिखा है कि मिटेओर हो सकता है, या कोई बड़ा ऑब्जेक्ट आकर के टकराए, और नाउ इट इज़ टाइम कि वो टकराए, बिकॉज जो ह्यूमन हिस्ट्री है उसमें हर 10-20 हज़ार साल के बीच में एक बार कैटास्ट्रॉफी हुई है, बड़ा डिजास्टर हुआ है जिससे जिंदगी थ्रेटन हो गई थी धरती के ऊपर। इट इज वन। पर एक बड़ी इंटरेस्टिंग बात वो तब कहते हैं, अब से 4-5 साल पहले की किताब है, ज़्यादा पहले की किताब है वो, जिसमें वो कहते हैं कि एआई कुड बी डेंजर टू नॉट ओनली ह्यूमैनिटी बट लाइफ ऑन अर्थ। डू यू अग्री विद इट?
और बहुत से लोगों ने ये बात कही है, और उसको आसानी से इग्नोर नहीं किया जा सकता है, क्योंकि उसमें काफ़ी सच्चाई भी है। लेकिन ये जो बात है, वो बात फायर के बारे में भी सच थी। आपने न्यूक्लियर रिएक्शन की बात की, उसके बारे में भी सच थी। तरह तरह के वायरसेस के बारे में भी सच है। तो ऐसा है कि हम लोग जिस दौर से निकले हैं ह्यूमैनिटी में, बहुत सी चीज़ें आती रही हैं एक के बाद एक, और हम लोगों ने हर चीज़ में सोचा है, सीखा है कि सोशली रिस्पॉन्सिबल वे से इसका कैसे उपयोग किया जाए। सोशल रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी बहुत बड़ी चीज़ है। आप इस बात से सोचिए कि एक चीज़ जो हमेशा से हम इंटेलिजेंस के बात कर रहे थे बच्चों की और इसकी, आप और मैं सोशली रिस्पॉन्सिबल कैसे बनते हैं? हम इस बात के बारे में फ़िक्र क्यों कर रहे हैं? यदि आप थोड़ा भी सोचें तो बेसिकली हम सब लोग सेल्फिश हैं। आप तो
एक चीज इसमें बीच में आपकी बात
राइट
को काट रहा हूँ। आर यू सेइंग कि हम आज के हर टेक्नोलॉजी, हर पैराडाइम शिफ्ट, जिसकी कौन बात करता है कि पैराडाइम
राइट
शिफ्ट आते
राइट
हैं, तो दिस इज अ पैराडाइम शिफ्ट इन माय ओपिनियन।
यस इट इज़।
सो जब भी पैराडाइम शिफ्ट आता है तो हम उसको आज के सोशल स्ट्रक्चर में और ह्यूमन रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी जिसको कहते हैं हम, उसमें देखना शुरू कर देते हैं, तो हमें डर लगने लगता है। तो क्या कल को आप ये कह रहे हैं कि एक नई दुनिया होगी, एक नई इंसानियत होगी जो आज के मुकाबले में ज़्यादा रिस्पॉन्सिबल होगी और इसको इस्तेमाल करेगी?
मैं आप जिस दिशा में जा रहे हैं, मैं उसी दिशा में जा रहा हूँ। कि बात ऐसी है कि आप और मैं, और जो लोग भी इन सब बातों के बारे में सोच रहे हैं, उन लोगों को ये सोचना पड़ेगा कि यदि ये टेक्नोलॉजी इस तरह से जा रही है तो इसको कैसे कंट्रोल किया जा सकता है। और जैसा यही बात फायर के शुरू में हुई थी, यही बात न्यूक्लियर के में, लेकिन
जब
आर्टिफिशियल
फोटोग्राफी आई थी लोगों ने कहा था कि अब पेंटिंग खत्म।
नहीं,
जब
करेक्ट,
टाइपिंग आई थी तो लोगों ने कहा था कि अब मेमोरी खत्म, उसकी
राइट।
ज़रूरत ही नहीं पड़ेगी, किताबों में सब कुछ है, याद रखने की जरूरत।
Whenever we are talking about AI, ethical concerns and guidelines always come up. So I want to know what's your take on that. What kind of guidelines should the governments around the world be looking at, or even the private sector? What kind of safety benchmarks should we have when we develop more AI tools?
Something that everybody is very concerned about it are the negative effects of AI. That
Deep fakes, voice cloning, things like
all
that.
in fact, deep fake and voice cloning are tools. They are not really the effects. The real effects are how you can use limited data. And based on that, you design systems that that really are not right systems. It's like human beings. If you train a person based on limited set of data, they become very biased.
Ask one more question, which is probably important for future generations in India. That you have experience of what is happening in the area of AI in India, and you are also an expert in China, where you have led teams of researchers. What is the difference? Where do we place India vis-a-vis China?
Uh,
And does your Indianness, which you were talking about as a child, you've grown here, disturb you about something?
जब मैं वहाँ जाया करता था चाइना में और वहाँ सबको देख रहा था, तो मेरे बहुत से दोस्त लोग मेरे से यही प्रश्न पूछते थे कि तुम्हारी रिएक्शन क्या है चाइना में जाने की। तो मेरा जवाब थोड़ा जिस ढंग से मैं देता था मजाक में, वो ये था कि देखो, एक ज़माने में चाइना अमेरिका से बहुत पीछे था, और अब जिस ढंग से उन्होंने प्रोग्रेस कर लिया है, दे आर किकिंग एस ऑफ अमेरिका इन एवरी फील्ड। आई एम एन इंडियन by birth, settled currently in US, so I feel bad about that. But then I also consider कि मैं एक ज़माने में 84 तक पर्टिकुलरली इंडिया और चाइना ऑलमोस्ट बराबरी के उसमें थे। अब इतनी हालत गैप इतनी ज़्यादा हो गई है कि कल्पना भी करना मुश्किल है कि इंडिया कब चाइना से आगे बढ़ सकता है या कैसे कम्पीट कर सकता है। इसका मतलब ये है कि चाइना हैज़ ऑलरेडी किक्ड एस ऑफ इंडिया। Now, I being Indian American, my ass is getting kicked twice. Yeah. So,
So I think that answers your question.
Yeah, that is a good one. Let's conclude on that note.
I'm spending more time in India seeing how to spark some young people do this, because I cannot do all the things that young people can do, and it's all in the hands of young people. It's all you. I don't care about these two guys. I care about you.
We also care about others.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for this wonderful discussion and for making time for this. तो ये थी हमारी AI पे चर्चा। अब मैं जाते जाते आपको एक इंटरेस्टिंग स्टडी के बारे में बता देती हूँ। इफ यू आर वन ऑफ दोज हु प्रेफर फिजिकल बुक्स इंस्टेड ऑफ देयर किंडल काउंटरपार्ट्स, देन यू माइट बी इन लक। अ स्टडी हैज फाउंड दैट वी लर्न मोर फ्रॉम रीडिंग ऑन पेपर दैन ऑन स्क्रीन्स। स्टडी में ये भी पता चला है कि फिजिकल किताब या कागज पे पढ़ी हुई इंफॉर्मेशन को हम ज्यादा अच्छे से प्रोसेस करते हैं। समथिंग टू थिंक अबाउट इन आवर डिजिटल फर्स्ट वर्ल्ड, नो? Tell me in the comments what you think about this. Please don't forget to like, share and subscribe to The Wire, and I will see you next month.